what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Footcandle Films. Film news and reviews from two guys who really like movies.
This episode is brought to you by the Footcandle Film Society. For a schedule of upcoming screenings and membership information, visit the Society's website at www.footcandle.org.
Hello and welcome to Footcandle Films. Chris, how you doing, man?
Doing good.
Good. I'm Alan. This is Chris. We're going to talk about some movies today here at Footcandle Films. The way our show normally works with this here on The Mesh is we have one or two films that we do a big review for, and then we go in and talk about some movie news. And then we're going to wrap up today's episode with our recommendations, a film from the vault, I guess you could say, or one maybe that you might have missed or hasn't been out in a while. And we want to recommend that you check it out on streaming, DVD, whatever it may be. Couple little housekeeping notes first before we get into our show. This is Footcandle Films on themesh.tv. You can go check out all of our back episodes. You can listen to Chris and me try to attempt our first episode. What was that, a year and a half ago? 2 years ago, something like that. You can go all the way back to number one and listen for a long weekend and just have a really great weekend listening to back episodes of Footcandle Films.
We know that over this holiday season, there's probably nothing more that you'd like to do than sit and listen to us talk.
Consider it our Christmas gift to you.
That's right.
The listener.
Hours
and hours of Alan and Chris talking about films. Just let that settle for a little bit.
And possibly contradicting ourselves numerous times.
That's true. We very well could be. One episode, we really like a film. Then when we talk about it later, we didn't really like it too much. So
that's right.
Anyway, that's all available on themesh.tv. You go to the website. You can go and look up all of our episodes and shows. You can also look up all the other shows that are on the Mesh Network. It's a great resource for just hours and hours of entertainment. We also want to say thank you to our sponsor for this month, Main Cellar City Club, located right here in Hickory, North Carolina, about 2 blocks away from where we are recording here at the Mesh Studios. A great event and music venue. Private parties are available. Some of the past acts they've had, Yarn, Brett Michaels, some other great bands. Future acts they've got coming up, Bad Company, Tesla's Frank Hannon and Lefty Williams, and Little River Band. I think it's still, have they come or are they coming soon?
I think they're coming soon.
Oh, Little River Band, which, Chris, I had to actually educate before the show started, like some of the Little River Band's songs.
Yes.
Because you didn't know any of them.
I did, sadly.
So you've obviously never been in a dentist office lobby or anything. So Little River Band, man, as music I grew up to. So I'm very excited to see them performing here very soon. Main Cellar City Club, you can find out more about that place at www.maincellarcityclub.com. That's on the internet, people. www.maincellarcityclub.com to find out more about our great sponsor. One of my favorite venues in town. We've got a lot of events coming up in 2013 where we're going to be hosting them at that place. Great facility. Check it out for any of your needs with event or music, concerts, receptions, parties, whatever it may be. Check it out. So with that out of the way, Chris, let's get right into our show. Our very first review is our Footcandle film of the month. This is the film that we just recently filmed, or screened, I should say, just last night for our local film society. It is the French film, The Intouchables.
Allez debout, Philippe.
C'est qui ce type? Autour de toi, tout le monde s'inquiète.
Bon, il est grand, il est costaud, il a 2 bras, 2 jambes, un cerveau qui fonctionne, il est en bonne santé.
Trop long là.
Les gars des cités, ils n'ont aucune pitié.
C'est ce que je veux. Aucune pitié.
Voilà, c'est bon comme ça?
Attends.
C'est un truc de ouf là.
Vous avez fini de jouer, non?
Mais en fait, vous sentez rien du tout là.
Bon appétit.
Ça frise la paresse là, faut envoyer un peu.
With The Intouchables, we have what seems like a pretty familiar setup. You have a person who has had a horrible accident and is going to rely on someone to come help them. And they come from a different background. And they struggle, and somehow they become friends, kind of like a buddy picture in an odd sort of way. And, you know, they get to know each other. They may have disagreements, but then by the end of the film, everything's happy. A more stylized, I guess, less happy version of this, you could say, would be like Diving Bell and the Butterfly. Which
we saw as one of our first screenings for Footcandle, the Film Society.
Correct.
A film I admire incredibly. Think is just a wonderful film, one of the best films that came out that year it was released.
Yeah, and so with this film, going in, you may hear the kind of a plot synopsis of what it's about. What were your feelings exiting this movie? Were you let down by the movie? Did you feel like, okay, this is a foreign film? It's got a lot of accolades. It has broken box office records in France.
Yeah,
So
it's been a big hit. It's been a big hit in Europe and France. And you know, Chris, the thing is, when we selected this film to show for our film society, I actually remember sending you a link to the trailer and saying, okay, Chris, I think we should show this film, but I'm not excited about it at all. Because here's the one-line description on the tagline.
Okay.
After he becomes a quadriplegic from a paragliding accident, an aristocrat hires a young man from the projects to be his caretaker. Right away, and that and the trailer combined, I said, okay, this is Lifetime movie material.
That's
ready to go, over-emotional, over-sentimental. It's going to hit every emotional note you expect, and it's extremely predictable.
so. To pull a Montgomery Burns, you would say this is claptrap. And
Yes,
probably not
yes.
worth seeing.
I would have described it as claptrap before I saw it.
Okay.
But now you're asking.
So, after having seen the movie, what do you think?
I was pleasantly surprised.
Okay.
The film exceeded my expectations on just about every level.
Excellent.
From the trailer, I really thought the acting was going to be over the top and just almost unbearable from the young man who plays Driss. Mm-hmm. I just thought I was going to really despise this character about midway through the film.
Okay.
I did, from what I saw in the previews and all the lead up, the main character, Philippe, I thought was going to be a very bland character as well. And it was going to be truly the buddy, oh, I'm Mr. Stuffy. I don't do anything crazy. And here this crazy person has now entered my life and made me more of a crazy person.
Right.
And it really wasn't like that. I mean, there was enough nuances going on, interesting things, little subplots to keep this as a very interesting film. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I thought it was really good. I thought acted extremely well. The plot, the story, nothing surprising in the story. There was nothing much deeper than what I would have expected in a film like this. However, I think everybody played it off to where it didn't come across as cliche. Mm-hmm. It didn't come across as overly scripted. I actually thought some of the scenes may have had even a little bit of an ad lib nature to them in some of the dialogue, which was nice.
Okay.
Yes, it pretty much ended the way I would expect it to end. There were no real surprises, but it was an enjoyable film to watch for me from start to end. And so I guess going in with the expectation that it really was going to be this formulaic story to it, I was actually pleasantly surprised it wasn't. What about you?
I guess, yeah, my feelings were when you see a story that's advertised as based on a true story, mm-hmm. and you get the 2 or 3 line synopsis that you read, you kind of say, okay, this is going to be very formulaic, very cliche, and you just assume there's almost no reason to see it because But I think what elevates this film is what elevates the film is the acting. And also, I thought the cinematography
it was a good-looking
really
film.
pretty. Like, a lot of shots were very, I won't say needlessly artistic, because they helped me enjoy the film. And I was surprised that how, even though with the setup as it was and how the movie ended, it still maintained my interest.
Yeah.
And I think, that's to say something, because you got to know, obviously, the movie's going to end on a certain note. Otherwise, they wouldn't make this movie. If the whole movie was just a big downer, like based on a true story, and like you kind of know what you're getting into. But I found it very, very entertaining, mm-hmm. and I was pleased that they had moments of humor that, for the most part, never went over into like satire or farce or whatever. Mm-hmm. And there were also things that, had this been a Hollywood movie, I think they would have taken farther, but they kind of pulled back the reins, and actually some things were left kind of a little messy mm-hmm. and open-ended. And I think had it been a Hollywood movie, they would have kind of hammered it home a little more.
It was, I do like the fact that they didn't push it. They didn't exploit what they had. It was a simple story, simple plot line. It had enough really, really nicely done performances and enough great dialogue and the cinematography to keep it interesting to watch and to follow the story and be interested in these characters. Mm-hmm. These were not overly caricature characters either. They could have been very easily. I mean, for example, Philip, the quadriplegic, he could have been painted as this tried and true aristocrat where it is just everything's prim and proper. He has lived a very pampered life, and it's just he's extremely rich and all this. But that's not really him. He has that air, but yet you kind of get the impression pretty early on that there's a lot more to this guy, and you do learn a little bit more about him. And you learn that he's got a little bit of a wild side. He loves driving fast and being adventurous and doing dangerous things, and that's the kind of thing you wouldn't have had in a more formulaic movie. You would have had these two characters so completely opposite that they have to learn to make each other like each other. Here, these two characters actually had a lot more in common down deep. Mm-hmm. It was just getting to find out what those things were, Well,
and I think, too, the movie wasn't interested in like how he made Philippe, who's the aristocrat, they weren't interested in how he made his money. Mm-hmm. They really weren't interested in a lot of his past. They allude to, okay, this is how I had my accident, but there's not a lot of like drama built into that.
Doesn't dwell on that for very long, no.
And the guy who comes to help him, whose name is, now I've forgotten his name.
Driss.
Yes, Driss. He like comes from kind of a troubled background, but they also don't really dwell on that either. They kind of mention it, and you kind of say, okay, this is why he's living in a small little apartment with a bunch of people, and it's kind of crowded, and he has had a robbery and stuff. But it doesn't dwell in that because they're not interested in their pasts. They're only interested in the relationship, and they focus on that.
Well, and I kept part of my experience watching this film is I kept waiting for the shoe to drop. Mm-hmm. I kept waiting for that one scene that I just knew was going to happen. It was really going to upset me. The scene where, okay, they've brought in this kid from the projects who's going to be the caregiver for this quadriplegic. And of course, that caregiver couldn't care less about being there. He's there for the money. He's there for all that. Very formulaic so far. And of course, they're going to start to grow closer together because they even already show you that in the first couple minutes of the film.
True.
They show you a scene that happens later in the film that already shows them with a very strong connection, a good relationship. So that's where we're going to get to.
Right.
They're not masking that. They're basically saying, yeah, we know. They're going to become friends. Mm-hmm. The key is, how do they become friends and what do they learn from each other?
Right.
But I kept waiting for that scene where all of a sudden everything's going so great and Driss has now entertained the whole house and everybody loves Driss, and all of a sudden his past comes back to haunt him, or something comes up and it's this big nightmare, and all of a sudden he has to leave and everybody misses Driss, and then he has to come back at the end and save the day. It's a little variation on that. But it wasn't cliche like that at all. It was very realistic, I thought, the way it went down. And it built to the end. So it was, it was a nice little surprising film. I'm not going to go out and say it was one of the best of the year that I've seen. I just think it was a really solid, well put together film that took a story that could have been extremely cliche and made it a fairly entertaining and good film to watch.
I agree.
Yeah. A couple things with it, I thought, just to call out. You mentioned the acting already, about how the acting was really strong. I agree. Francois Cluzet was Philippe. I'm not familiar with anything he's ever done.
French? That was pretty good.
Practiced just a little bit. Francois Cluzet played Philippe. I thought very, very strong performance. I don't know anything else he's ever done, but he was really sharp. Omar Sy played Driss. Again, very good. Mm-hmm. Could have been an extremely annoying character, but they gave just enough of a real meat of a personality to him to make him an interesting character to watch.
And I guess both characters don't have any startling transformation. And I guess, like you were saying, that's what's kind of satisfying about this, is that it's not like he starts out a complete hoodlum and then by the end he's this perfect angel caregiver.
Right. Yes.
No, I mean, he's already kind of
a good guy who's just been in some bad situations. Yeah.
And I think what was really satisfying for me to see was that they didn't go down the tried and true road of having that big, arc or whatever. But also, Omar Sy, it was interesting to see. I thought he did really good jobs of like having going from being lighthearted, but then there's always a little bit of seriousness behind it, and I don't know, just watching his expressive face kind of shifting back and forth between moods I thought he did a good job.
Another performance I was going to call out, it was a smaller role, but I don't know, something about her performance I really liked. Audrey Fleurot, who played Magali, who was the redheaded assistant to Philippe. who kind of had a little bit of a flirtatious relationship with or with Driss. I don't know. Something about her performance it was good. It was solid. It was, I really bought the characters in the film.
Yeah.
They had a couple of people who worked in the big mansion house that I thought were maybe a little caricaturish. You got the gardener, you've got the, house, I guess, woman who runs the house.
Right.
A little caricatures, but never that bad. Never to the point it was annoying. But overall, I thought acting top to bottom was great. And you mentioned cinematography. I agree. I remember halfway watching this film saying, this could have been shot like a TV movie and be made to look so dull. But these guys really made this film look good. Even if you weren't invested in the story, there's enough visually to watch to keep this interesting for you.
Exactly.
What we've got a director and writer combo, Olivier Nakache and Eric Toledano. And they are a combination director and writer duo. They've worked on a few other films together. I've never heard of them. I've never seen any of their work, but I am actually somewhat interested now to check out some of their other work and see if this is one of the best things they've done or if they've done some other really great work. I thought it was interesting, something I read about this film, and I could see why to some degree. 9 weeks after its release, it became the second most successful French film ever.
Wow.
So it really took off. I don't know if it's because the actors are well known in France. I don't know if it's because the writer director are well known. I don't know if it was just lightning in a bottle, just happened to hit at a really good time. But still, it really took off in Europe and France. It's a shame it's not going to get more of a notice here in America. It just won't. There are talks about it being nominated for Best Foreign Picture. Yeah. It is France's official entry into the Oscars for foreign language film. So we wish it well. I think it's a great film. I think it's a really good, strong film, and really enjoyed it. Very, very surprising. If I had gone in with extremely high expectations, would it have been as good in my mind? I don't know. But I went in with very limited, low expectations, and it far surpassed those.
If you had to, I have two kind of like nitpicks with the film, I guess I'd say.
Sure.
Do you have any, or are you?
Just one or two small ones, but they're not. I think I mentioned already a couple of the house characters I thought were a little caricaturish. Other than that, there was a scene in the middle that luckily they stopped it when they stopped it, but it was kind of a dance scene. It had a lot of music, almost like a little mini music video kind of in the middle of the movie.
Yes.
Boy, that could have gone really off the rails bad. And it came really close for me.
And I know the scene you're talking about. It was kind of a chance for Driss to kind of show a little bit of a wild side, to try to bring Philippe out of his shell. It was on his birthday. And that scene, to me, kind of went on a little longer than it should have. But like you're saying, they did stop it before it got just... It was
the typical scene you expect to see in a movie like this, where all of a sudden the wild kid, the wild person in the relationship now has a cut loose moment where he gets everybody around him, all the uptight, stuck up people kind of letting their hair down. And it was a little much.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air type
Yes,
moment.
Exactly. But you know what? I thought they kept it fairly restrained. I thought it was done fairly well. That was the only scene that still kind of sticks out in my mind as like, I would have toned that one down a little bit more. But
that was the one scene that I didn't like, and the other scene that I didn't like, that scene was actually kind of a callback to. Both had to do with music. I liked the opening and that it kind of teased, because it kind of comes from the 3/4 point in the film, or the halfway point in the film. But they showed that scene at the very beginning, and you see that they already have the close relationship. But in that scene as well, they use music as kind of a joke.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yes. Which I understand is part of the, you don't want to care. But to me, they also kind of played that a little bit too much. And
during the opening credits?
During the opening, during that scene. And it actually worried me like, oh no. Well, is this where this whole film was going? And it didn't. It got to where it was going, the scene ended, and then that was forgotten about until the dance.
You know the reason I like the opening credits the way they did it? Okay. Because the first few images we see, it's very ominous. Yeah, things are not looking very good.
True.
All we see is Driss driving, and he's got Philip with him. Philip looks very distracted and upset, and something's going on.
Right.
We don't know he's a quadriplegic at this point, and we just know it's two people in a car, and Driss is driving. And all of a sudden, Driss starts driving really fast and getting very reckless with it. We don't know why at this point. Okay, we have no idea what's going on. That's when he turns on the Earth, Wind, and Fire, playing September, big blaring loud music, and it's a very fast opening credit sequence and all. And it kind of builds up this idea of, oh, okay, well, they're having fun, then everything's good. Oh, I'm sorry, no, actually what happened is they're going, they get pulled over by the cops, And then the cops, they pull a little joke on the cops, making
Right.
the cops think that the quadriplegic is actually having some sort of seizure or attack, and they need an escort to the hospital, which they really didn't need.
Right.
That's when they start blaring the music and playing that. You still thought something was wrong, though. I still felt like down deep something may have been going wrong. And it turned out there kind of was, not as serious as what the joke was meant to play,
Sure.
but there was something serious going on in the background. So almost like that loud, upbeat music and them kind of head bobbing in the car and all, I was okay with because I knew there's something else serious going on, and this is just a good balance for them on stuff.
I think it just worried me a little bit because I guess the opening titles reminded me of like a Brett Ratner film, like a Rush Hour type thing.
Yeah,
And
I
was
mean, I could see that.
Oh no!
And that's why I think it was a good balance. It was like,
Right.
let's start out ominous, let's really brighten it up, and then we're going to go back and tell you the story. And there you go. It worked for me. I liked it. I was actually worried going into this was going to be a very downer film most of the time. And the fact that it kind of started on a little bit more of an upbeat point, I thought was good.
Yeah.
So overall, it sounded like we were both pretty pleasantly surprised with the film. And that was good. I definitely would recommend it to people who have any interest at all in anything you've heard us talk about with this film. If anything sounds like something you might enjoy, trust us. It's a good film. You'll enjoy it. I think you'll have fun. Subtitled, so
True.
be prepared to read, but I mean, don't we all need to read a little bit more these days anyway? Yeah. So The Intouchables, I wish I could say it was playing somewhere near you, but chances are it's probably not.
I mean, if it gets, well, no. Yeah, I was going to say if it does become one of the official 5 selections for Best Foreign Film, but it probably still won't come to a theater. You'd probably still catch it on DVD, I guess.
So it is something worth checking out. We do recommend, and hopefully we'll hear its name batted around come Oscar time as well. So that's The Intouchables, a 2011 film out in limited release, I'm sure, around America right now. Hopefully we'll see it come streaming or DVD before too long. So with that, we're going to move in just a moment into our next film review, which is going to be the film Life of Pi. Before we do that, just a quick reminder again, thank you Main Cellar City Club for your patronage and helping us with the podcast and being a great supporter for us. MainCellarCityClub.com if you want to learn more information. And again, remember, you can always check out more information about our show at themesh.tv. You can drop us an email at info@themesh.tv, or you can go to our Footcandle website for our film society to find out what we're doing as a film group in town. That's footcandle.org. A lot of different ways to contact us. We encourage you to go check out the websites. Drop us a note. Have you seen The Intouchables? Agree, disagree? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you on that. So now we're going to move on to our second review, which is the film Life of Pi. So, Chris, I'll be honest, I have not seen Life of Pi. This is all you. I'm going to just kind of fire 20 questions at you about this film. I'm really anxious to hear your take and what you think of it.
Okay.
Life of Pi, just for everybody curious, is kind of somewhat of an adventure film. It's being marketed as a very sweeping, epic film. Stars Suraj Sharma, and he stars as Pai Patel. Am I right with that?
Yes.
Good. And my understanding with this is a young man who survives a disaster at sea, and he's hurled into this big journey with adventure, discovery, and he forms a connection with a Bengal tiger that I believe was also on the ship that was wrecked.
Yes.
Okay, good. There again, I'm guessing at a lot of this because
No.
I've not seen.
So far, you're
you just
betting
keep
1,000.
nodding your head, telling me if I'm right on this. The thing that probably interests me the most, I mean, the trailer is very visually interesting to see.
Sure.
It seems like it has a lot going on with it. But it is directed by Ang Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ang Lee is a director I'm very hot or cold on. Brokeback Mountain was probably one that he got probably the most acclaim for that he's done in a while. And of course, that one, not only the controversy that came with that, but it did get a lot of critical acclaim for the film and its performances.
Sure.
Then he also did The Hulk, the Marvel Comics adaptation, which really wasn't a Marvel Comics adaptation. It was a very strange film, I thought.
Yeah.
Didn't really work for me too much. Then you've had some other things. Did he do Crouching Tiger, Hidden
Yes.
Dragon?
Yes.
Which visually
was
very,
really
very
good.
fun, interesting film to see. He did a couple other films. The Ice Storm, was that his as well?
Yes.
Okay. So he does good films, but
Sure.
he's also had a few that didn't work out as well for everybody that saw him. So here, this is something very different, something a little more. It's a PG film, which, nowadays is kind of a rarity in itself. PG film, adventure film, 3D film, spectacle film. Chris, tell me, how would you describe this film to people who don't know much about it?
Well, I mean, it is an adventure film. And the one caution that I would have for people going to see it, if you see the trailer, it looks like there's a lot of action and it's very sweeping and you go to a lot of different places. And actually, it's more of kind of an internal story, because what ends up happening is Pi and his family are on this big boat. And this happens in the first, couple of minutes in the film. But they're on this big boat and it crashes, it wrecks at sea, it sinks, basically. So then he and a couple of animals that were on the boat are stuck on a lifeboat out in the middle of the ocean. Okay? So then it becomes it's a tale of survival.
Okay.
How is this boy going to survive with a Bengal tiger and an orangutan and a hyena and a zebra on this? I mean, it is a semi-sizable lifeboat, but still he's got to kind of, how can he do that with, water and trying to get food and all this kind of stuff. So it's an interesting tale of survival, but I would caution people that are going into it thinking it's maybe going to be a big action type sweeping thing, because it's a lot more of him. You hear a lot of thoughts in his head, and there are a lot of scenes where there's not a lot of dialogue, and it's just him sitting there thinking about how am I going to survive. And he does kind of talk out loud just because, he's out there. What's he going to do to try to keep himself sane? Yeah. So it's a lot more of a thinking and maybe kind of a deep movie about how, what does it mean to be alive, and philosophical movie than you may think.
So the whole playing it up as a big 3D spectacle film, adventure film, is maybe a little misleading.
I think so. And there are some 3D. I actually saw it in 2D. But there are the set piece at the beginning that is the boat sinking. I imagine that was very dramatic in 3D. But then you get to the rest of the movie and, outside of a tiger maybe lunging at the screen, it's not like you need to see it in 3D.
Okay, good.
So it's not like, don't go to it looking for a 3D spectacle, because you're not really going to get that either.
What about from a family standpoint? Is this something for the kids? Is this because it's kind of being marketed as a family film?
I don't think so. I think it probably should have been PG-13. It should have been PG-13. And the reason why is the survival is pretty grim at some point, what he's having to go through. And without ruining the ending, there's some revelations about how you have perceived some things that come about at the end, where basically Pi gives a little bit of a monologue straight to the camera. And that's kind of disturbing. Some of the things that are kind of revealed could be very disturbing. I went and saw it with my family, and it was odd. My 10-year-old was actually really upset by some of the things that happened. The family, what happens to them in the sinking of the boat, and so that just really upset her. So,
wow.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised it got a PG as opposed to a PG-13.
Okay. And now you've read the book.
Well, and that's another interesting. This is based on a book, and I did really like the book. I would encourage people, if you have not read the book, don't read the book. Go see the movie on its own merits, and I think you'll like it. If you have read the book and you go see the movie like I did, I don't think you'll hate the movie. It's just there's so much that is happening internally in Pi's head that you read about in the book, and it's more natural the way it kind of happens in the book. Right. And in the movie, they have to try to do it a lot through dialogue, and it just kind of seems a little forced. But it's what they have to do to make it.
Yeah, it's a 2-hour movie already.
So, you got to. And how else are you going to make it interesting if it's a boy out in the middle of the ocean with nobody to talk to? Yeah. It's kind of tough. So
I've been real curious about the film. I was interested to hear your take on it. It is something that's, I know we keep talking about Oscars, but it is kind of that barometer. It is that barometer that everybody tries to shoot their films for. And typically the films we show at our film society are ones that are a little more in that Oscar category. So of course, Life of Pi, I was curious because it has gotten a lot of acclaim. It's like, being possibly considered as one of the best picture nominees. I mean, do you think it's up in that arena?
Well, if there were, there are going to be 10, I guess, nominees this year. So in that block of 10, I guess so. But if there were only going to be 5, there's no way it'd make that top 5.
Okay, interesting. But The Life of Pi, it got a pretty wide release. It should still be out in a lot of movie theaters. I'm sure they were wanting to keep it through Christmas and have it played during the Christmas holiday as much as possible.
Right.
So Ang Lee's latest. Do you got a favorite film of Ang Lee's? I was going to mention like all of his filmography and see if one of these registered. His last film was actually Taking Woodstock, which I didn't really hear much about.
I think
I
I saw that, but it's very Dimitri Martin.
Yes, that's it.
I don't think I do. I don't think I'm really a big fan. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon would probably be
Lust, Caution, Brokeback Mountain, Hulk, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Ride with the Devil, The Ice Storm, Sense and Sensibility. That was kind of the first one he did. That adaptation with Hugh Grant and a few others back in '95. That was kind of the first one that got him some American attention there.
I think he's a very talented filmmaker, and that he can tell stories, and he works with actors apparently really well, and he's got a good eye. A lot of the stuff is, that's okay. If I were to say anything as far as cinematography or effects for Life of Pi, that's where the Oscar buzz acclaim might be.
Yeah.
It is a very beautiful movie. A lot of the scenes look like they were painted. So that's, I would say that's some positives I'll give it, that, it's a very beautiful, beautiful movie.
Cool.
So
good. Well, thanks for the review, Chris. We appreciate that, the feedback on the film. That's Life of Pi, which probably out in a lot of the theaters near you, even as you listen to this podcast. Maybe ending close to the end of its theatrical run if it's not doing as well box office wise. But definitely sounds like check it out.
Yeah.
It's worth seeing. Just there are some reservations about it, and maybe the way it's being branded and marketed, or maybe not the best way to go in with those expectations on it.
Right.
But visually, it does sound like it's a very visually stunning film.
Yes.
Good. Great. Well, thanks. Well, that's our two reviews for this month's episode. That was The Intouchables and Life of Pi. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to jump right into some movie news. We're going to talk about some things happening in the world of film, and then we're going to wrap it up with our recommendations of the month, where Chris and I both share a great film that you can queue up over the Christmas holiday or New Year's and just get settled in and enjoy a nice evening with one of our recommended films. So we look forward to sharing yet another Christmas gift with you here shortly when we return from Footcandle Films.
Main Cellar City Club, Hickory's premier music venue, is the place to go for music events, wedding dinners or receptions, company retreats, reunions, and more. Contact Main Cellar at 828-345-6246 or find us on Facebook and Twitter for all your entertainment updates.
Hello and welcome back to Footcandle Films. Chris, it's holiday party going on even as we record this episode upstairs in our office building.
It is true.
So we're hearing Christmas music in the background, a lot of commotion going on. Everybody's having a good time. We probably ate maybe a little too much for lunch than we normally do, and may have had a couple drinks that we shouldn't have had. So we're just kind of playing a little loose with today's episode. We're just kind of going with the flow. Right. We are going to ease into some of our movie news as we did our reviews earlier in the show. This is where I like to try to catch Chris off guard. I've researched and found some topics about some either movies in production, ones getting ready to release, or some other related industry news that we're just going to pick apart. I never tell Chris what we're going to talk about in advance, so he's always caught off guard. So really, we could rename this section Surprise Chris and see what Chris has to say. Surprise! But let's go into some movie news then.
Okay.
First off, Pedro Almodovar.
Yes.
You a big fan of his films? You like a lot of his films? I can rattle off some of his titles.
I typically do. I mean, I wouldn't seek him out, but I think he's got an interesting eye. They're always bright and colorful. He's a big, he works a lot with Penelope Cruz.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. So,
well, just some of his films, Talk to Her, which is actually the oldest film of his I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And it was actually probably one of the first films of his I saw, and I really liked. Right. That was one of those, I didn't know what I was to expect going in. I knew nothing about the film, and it was very entertaining, very interesting, shocking at times, but also just really, really interesting to watch. I'll leave it at that. I enjoyed it a lot. He has done Volve. He's done Broken Embraces. His last film was The Skin I Live In. Did you end up seeing that with Antonio Banderas?
I want to.
I do too. And it got some very mixed reviews. It was called very disturbing, had just a very interesting premise to it. I'm not even that familiar with it, but the thing I wanted to bring up today is his film that is going to be coming out soon. It's being marked as a 2013 film, but they put out a little teaser trailer about it, and it just sounds interesting. Okay. The film is called, the American title for it is I'm So Excited. And
does it have the Pointer Sisters song?
It absolutely does.
Excellent.
It is an ensemble musical comedy
Okay.
featuring one of his biggest cast. And it all takes place, for the most part, inside of an airplane in flight.
Nice.
Yeah. So basically the stewards and stewardesses play critical roles. It's a very big ensemble comedy, and there's musical elements
So it's
throughout
like
the film.
Airplane, except it's also a musical.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
So the little trailer they put out, I mean, I'm playing in the background, or maybe we can slice it a little bit. It's basically all set to the Pointer Sisters. I'm so excited.
Awesome.
A little dance routine going on the plane. So I think it looks really fun. Now, it being Almodovar, you never know if it's truly going to go straight comedy or...
Usually he has some pretty ridiculous drama in there, too.
Yes. So I'm curious if they really are keeping to the musical comedy genre or not. But supposedly it makes its theatrical premiere in Spain in March, and then it'll be coming out. Probably won't actually come out in the U.S. until the fall next year. So we may have a little ways to wait. But I do recommend if anything sounds interesting about this, do a search online for Pedro Almodovar. I'm so excited, and watch the little trailer, little 45-second quick trailer teaser thing. It's fun to watch.
I've always thought of him. A lot of his movies, they use colors and cinematography is big, but he also he's like the Spanish-speaking Robert Altman. He usually has a lot of little storylines that end up weaving together, which I tend to like. And sometimes his films can maybe suffer from a bit too much ambition, which it sounds like this, trying to do a musical comedy within the confines of just an airplane. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm intrigued.
Sounds like an interesting challenge, if nothing else. He is bringing in Antonio Banderas and Penelope Cruz, both in the film. So two of his kind of go-to regulars. In a lot of cases, they're in there along with Cecilia Ross, Javier Camara, a few other actors and actresses. I'm not as familiar with a lot of his entourage because I haven't seen as many of his films.
Sure.
But I'm curious. I think it could be fun. I think if nothing else, he's a very interesting filmmaker, and I'm to the point with my filmmaking or film going watching that I want to follow any director that's trying to do something interesting.
Sure.
I may not always agree with their films, may not always like their films, but as long as they're trying something different, trying something innovative, I'm on board. I say, sock it to me. Let's see what sticks. So this is one where I saw this little trailer. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm in. This looks like fun. So.
Excellent.
Now, what I figure we do next, Chris, a little different. Not necessarily as much news, but we have mentioned the Oscars already a few times in this recording when talking about their reviews earlier. Yes. You and I kind of try to keep a pulse on where things are going in award season, mainly because we are running a film society and we like to try to bring in films that have a good chance of being nominated for films come January, February. I know we're still another month away from the nominations being announced. They come out in late January, right?
I believe so.
Okay. But here's what I wanted to do. I'm going to toss out to you the names right now for both lead actor and lead actress that are currently in the hunt.
Okay.
Meaning this is not the official nomination list. That will not happen until late January. But I'm going to read these. Yeah, this is the pool. And of these names, I'm going to read them out. I want you to tell me the ones you feel like, just from either what you've seen or what you've heard about these performances, you think have a decent shot of getting in that final pool of probably 5 is what we're going to be looking at for this.
Okay.
Okay, first off, this is lead actor.
Okay.
Ben Affleck with Argo.
No.
Okay, all right. Jack Black with Bernie.
Man, this is hard. Not knowing like the whole...
I know, yeah. You got to give me a yes or no, though.
Okay, I'm going to say no on Jack Black, but then I'm going to give you a yes on Ben Affleck.
You're going to go back and do yes again?
I'm going to recant.
Really?
Yes, I'm going to recant.
You heard my review of Argo, right? Okay, so we'll come back to that in a minute. Anyway, all right. Have you heard of the film Any Day Now starring Alan Cumming?
Yes. I saw a preview of it recently.
He plays a drag queen.
Yes. Who adopts a child.
Yes. So it's a very kind of high concept drama to it.
Yes.
He's being batted around as potentially.
I could see that.
Okay. We've got Matt Damon with Promised Land. Yeah. That's a no. Okay. Right. Easy, that's a Gus Van Sant film. Matt Damon's in, has to do with, I think it's talking about fracking, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I just say no because I just don't think so.
All right. We got Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx with Django Unchained. We have not seen it yet, obviously. Doesn't come out till Christmas Day. But from what you're kind of picking up on, any chance of that?
No.
All right. Your prediction's no. All right. Martin Freeman with The Hobbit.
No.
All right, we're shaking that as a no. All right. I'm just giving you the pool.
The news.
I'm giving you the pool.
I know.
Anthony Hopkins with Hitchcock.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Bill Murray with Hyde Park on Hudson.
What number am I on? How many noses?
Let's go back and see. Okay. You said you went back and changed your answer on Ben Affleck with Argo to a yes.
So I have Affleck.
Wooden face Ben Affleck with Argo you've got in there. You said no on Jack Black. You said yes on Alan Cumming.
Okay, Alan Cumming.
No on Matt Damon. Jamie Foxx.
No.
No. Martin Freeman. No. Anthony Hopkins. Yes, with Hitchcock.
So I've got 3.
So you got 3 so far, and I'm only going to give you 2 more past Bill Murray. So Bill Murray, Hyde Park on Hudson.
No.
Okay. Here's a fun one. Omar Sy with The Intouchables.
Yes.
Okay. And then we have, oh boy, Jean-Louis Trintignant with Amour. That's the Michael Haneke film, Amour, that we haven't caught up with. I really have been wanting to see, though. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, put that one in there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going to put that one on there.
So that's your 5 you have picked from that list. We've got the lead actor from Amour. We've got Omar Sy, who played Driss in The Untouchables, film we reviewed earlier in the show. We've got Anthony Hopkins with Hitchcock. We've got Alan Cumming with Any Day Now, and Ben Affleck with Argo.
You know what?
Not a terribly strong patch, but you know what? There's one performance that was not mentioned in this pool at all.
Joaquin.
Well, actually, these are kind of considered the reason. I'm going to kind of shed the light on this. This is a little bit of a trick question for you. Okay. There are several that are big hit names on here I didn't give you.
Okay.
These are the ones that flying under the radar. So I was kind of curious to see how many of those you were going to squeak into the top field there.
Okay.
Of course, we got our Daniel Day-Lewis. Of course, we've got the master, the 2 lead actors there. We got several other big hitters.
I was about to say, I'm a little worried because we have 2 people from foreign films.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there's any way they.
No, this was my. Let's toss out the transiential ones, the ones on the outside of the mix that could squeak in. So, you gave me 5 that you feel like some of those 5 may actually be able to squeak in as a dark horse on the Oscar race. All right.
Yeah.
Now, of course, when the actual nominations come out, we're going to pick those apart, and both of us are going to give our picks and picks for the winners and all that.
Gotcha.
But let's do the same thing with actress. Again, these are ones flying under the radar.
Okay. Now I'm more prepared.
See, I wanted to catch you off guard with the actor. I was just curious to see if you could actually pick 5 potential best actor nominations out of that list I gave you, and you did. But I agree. I think Daniel Day-Lewis is going to win it anyway. So
I would think so.
All right. So here's a few that are, again, on the actress side, a little under the radar. Now that you know this a little differently.
Before you give me that, should we just go ahead and call? We're going to do this now. Lincoln's going to kind of be a Titanic. It's going to run away with stuff.
No, I don't think it will.
So?
No.
I haven't seen it. You've seen it, so I can't.
I think we're going to see a split. This is my early prediction.
Okay.
I think we're going to see a split, very much like we did when Saving Private Ryan won Best Director, and it won some other technical awards,
stuff.
but the Best Picture went to, I don't remember who that year, but it went to a more of a crowd-pleasing film.
Shakespeare in Love?
Maybe. I think it's going to do a reverse. I think Spielberg is going to win Best Picture and Best Actor.
Best Actor, yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Back up. It'll win Best Actor. It will not win Best Picture.
Okay.
I think Best Actor is going to go to Lincoln, and I think Lincoln will win a bunch of other awards, but I don't think it'll win Best Picture.
Okay.
I think it will be Zero Dark 30. That's just my prediction right now.
Yeah.
I think Zero Dark 30 is Best Picture.
I can see that.
Lincoln is Best Actor and a bunch of other acting awards.
I promise I'm going to catch up with Lincoln.
Okay. So let's go on to the actress. Okay. Again, these are under the radar. Yes. Now that you know how I'm playing this little game and tried to pull one over on you on the first part. Yes, these are not the front runners, but these are ones that could creep into that field, and I'm curious to see what you think.
Gotcha.
These are going to be a little trickier because I don't think you know most of these.
Okay.
We've got Linda Cardellini with Return.
Her last name sounds like pasta. And
so right away,
I say,
what does that tell you? You say no.
Carbs are
no. If the name sounds like pasta, we don't put them in.
What was the name of the movie?
It's Return, which I've never even heard of. Okay. Well, she's getting a little buzz, so just it's out there.
Okay.
Oh, me and my names. Amayatzi Corinaldi from Middle of Nowhere. Anything about that one?
No, but her last name sounds like a wine.
Okay, so
the wine would pair nicely with the pasta. Middle of Nowhere sounds familiar, though.
Yeah. There again, these are a little more reaching right now. Okay.
Sure.
Judi Dench, Best Exotic Marigold Hotel.
It seems like if she is in a movie at all, unless she takes the year off, she's not at least nominated. So I'm going to say yes.
Okay. So you think she might squeak in as that dark horse?
They give her, like, if she reads a page out of the phone book, she's nominated for an Oscar.
Okay.
But I do like her.
All right.
And I do think she does a good job. So,
Elle Fanning, she's in a film called Ginger and Rosa. Of course, Elle Fanning, sister of Dakota Fanning.
Right.
Elle Fanning was in Super 8.
okay.
And she was in, what other film was she in recently? She was in another film that did pretty well recently. Anyway, she's in a film.
Was she in the film of, the one who did Marie Antoinette and Lost in Translation and
Yes, you're talking about Somewhere, Someplace,
something like that. Who's the director? Female director, daughter of really famous.
Oh, Coppola.
Yes, thank
Sofia
you.
Coppola. Yeah. Mhm.
Yes, so she was in that.
She was in that
I think.
film, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, she's getting a little buzz there. Leslie Mann with This Is 40, which is the Judd Apatow film coming out.
Okay. No on Elle Fanning. Possibility on Leslie Mann.
Okay, all right.
So we have two possibles right
Yeah, and then we have Emmanuel Rivet, who is also with Amour. So we've got both the lead actor, lead actress, two older actor actress pairing there.
If I have to pick 5, I'm also going to pick her. for
Okay.
that movie.
Maggie Smith with Quartet. Now this is the she gets a lead role in this film. She's normally regulated to a lot of the supporting roles. She was supporting in a Marigold Hotel and others.
yeah.
This is supposedly she's got a lead. It has to do with opera. It has to do with classical performances. I've heard some good things about this film,
yeah?
Quartet. Yeah.
Okay.
Meryl Streep with Hope Springs. That's the Tommy Lee Jones Meryl Streep. You're gonna say no on Meryl Streep this year, aren't you?
I
It was I really don't
I've not
think
seen Hope Springs,
yeah.
but it just that's like my nightmare of a movie to have to sit through.
With her getting Margaret Thatcher the award last year for Best Actress on The Iron Lady,
Which was kind of a surprise for me.
it was a big surprise. I think she's got her fill right now for a while. I
she's
think
done.
I think she's done. I don't even think she'll be nominated.
Okay.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead with Smashed. I know nothing about this film, but I've seen her in a few films.
Yeah.
Don't have much to say about her. I don't know much about her acting style.
I believe that is that the film that's kind of a really gritty look at alcoholism?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yep,
yeah.
that's it. And then Rachel Weisz with The Deep Blue Sea. This is actually a film I'm anxious to check out. It's been getting a lot of great attention.
Yeah.
Somewhat downer, depressing, but it is. I think she's in it, and then Tom Hiddleston, who got to do a bunch of superhero stuff in the Avengers and Thor,
Right.
but is actually got a dramatic role here, and is supposedly very good as well. So,
Okay.
The Deep Blue Sea, that's a film I'm interested in seeing. I guess this can almost be a little bit of a list of films that we still need to check out before Oscar time, because Amour, I guarantee you, is going to get some attention on Oscar time.
And our top 10 list for the year, our top 5 list for the year, definitely sounds
Yeah.
like we need to check some of these films.
So, there's a lot of people flying under the radar right now. Obviously, when the nominations come out, we're going to take them and just dissect them and tell you our picks on them, who we think should win and probably is going to win, type of thing. And then we always love doing a little recap after the Oscars are done to just see how we did, as a little recap. So that's always, for us, it's kind of our Super Bowl time of the year. This is we're getting excited about where we're going with this. So if nothing else, treat this as a list of films that you may want to go out and check out if you're curious to see any of these dark horses kind of making it in the nomination field. If nothing else, these performances are supposed to be really good and worth checking out all the way around. I do want to credit Variety.com as kind of compiling some of these lists already and having these out there floating the names around, getting a little attention for some of these lesser known performances, but ones that could get some acclaim come January, February. Okay, so I guess we're done with some movie news. Are we ready to move on to our picks?
Sure.
Great. Well, this is the part of the show where we like to give you a pick of the month, a film that not necessarily a new film, but something that you should be able to access either through Netflix or iTunes or streaming somewhere else. So we want to find something that's available, not something you got to go work too hard to track down a copy of.
Right.
And something that can be as far back in time as we want it to be, or could be as recent as a couple weeks ago. Who knows? So Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you first. What's your pick for us this month?
Actually, mine is going to be a 2012 release.
Oh, it's a new film. Okay,
it is
good.
a new film. It's a documentary, and it's one that is on the short list, which is, I think, a list of about 15 documentaries that the Academy has already put out saying, okay, here are the top 15. From this 15, we're going to choose 5. And those
So we already know the giant pool for those.
Right.
Okay, all right.
So of those 15, they're going to pick 5, and those are going to be the nominees for Best Doc of the Year. Okay, so the doc that I'm picking or whatever is Ai Weiwei, Never Sorry. And this is a documentary about a Chinese activist, but he's also an artist. And
okay.
it is really, really, really fascinating.
Wow.
I saw it was on the short list, and I was like, oh, okay, it's a documentary about an artist. I'll watch that. And because I like to watch documentaries about artists, like what inspires them, how they're creative, because it then ends up inspiring me. So his art is very interesting, but the politics and what he puts up with in China, what he has to put up with, and how he struggles and fights against the system and is fearless. He seems to be absolutely fearless. Like he knows that he's going to get in trouble, and he does it anyway. And he doesn't do it in a like flagrant way. He just says, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to do my art. And if it gets in trouble, well, okay. And he isn't bothered by the fact that the police presence just seems to get worse and worse. They put up security cameras around his compound, and he just keeps on doing what he's doing. And it's really interesting. And the film chronicles about a 2-year period. And during this period, they have a point where he goes missing. And I remember I was on Twitter, and I remember some people on Twitter talking about it. And he's very involved with social media, which in China is kind of complicated to do. So I really strongly encourage people to check out this documentary. It's streaming on Netflix, so you can catch up with it there. I will be rooting for this when it comes. Hopefully it'll make the short list, which will be the 5. And I will be rooting as strongly for this film as I was for Exit Through the Gift Shop that lost. But wow. I will really be rooting for this, A, because I really like the documentary, but B, I just think it would be really impressive for someone who is trying to make a statement and trying to be an activist in China to be recognized in the United States, and I don't know if he would be allowed to come here to accept any type of award, but
interesting.
It's fascinating. I highly recommend.
I've heard just a little bit about this. I think I've seen the trailer for it, so that's definitely worth checking out. Though, sounds like. Well, let's go ahead and stay in Asia while we're at it. The film I've got. And gosh, I feel like I've talked about this film before, but yet I can't find it anywhere in our archives that I mentioned it.
Where is our intern?
We need to look through our show notes, and I'm very disappointed that our intern has dropped the ball and not completed those notes for us. So we're going to have
Christmas bonus for them.
No, we're going to have to discipline them right away. It's a 2006 film called The Host, and it is a Korean film. It was filmed a lot in South Korea.
Okay.
The director is Jun Ho Bong.
Okay.
And screenplay by Won Ju-ha. It is a good old-fashioned monster movie. I mean, this is a creature comes out of the sea, looks like a giant cross between a frog and a slime monster, and just an interesting character design. And it basically, a monster emerges from the Han River, focuses its attention on attacking people, and there's a family that has to try to get away from it. Okay. It's a pretty cut and dry film.
Sure.
What I was really impressed with is being in South Korea, they made a really good monster movie.
Gotcha.
The CGI is actually pretty impressive considering the budget for this film, which was not very big. And also a little bit of a throwback to you talking about Cloud Atlas a couple episodes ago in one of your reviews.
Okay.
One of the actresses who is in Cloud Atlas, Bae Do-na.
Okay.
She is featured in the Asian subplot line of Cloud Atlas.
Yeah.
She is in The Host as well. She's I think she's one of the family members.
Okay.
So a little bit of a connection tie in there. It was a good, fun B movie. I mean, it had a few surprises, a few things I didn't expect to have happen to some of the characters. They're already working on a sequel. They've already put some of the footage for the sequel online, which looks fun as well. Okay. And, I'm a big fan of monster movies.
Must
I like
Hostess.
Yes, the Host. Okay. Oh, Chris, you kill me. It's the Host 2 coming out, I think, next year sometime. There again, I like good B movies. If I had to kind of equate it to anything, you remember that film The Mist that came out a few years ago, the Frank Darabont adaptation of Stephen King movie? Yeah. It's kind of like that. It's a little hokey. It's a little B movie. It's a little slimy monster stuff. That's kind of what that's the kind of tone I got the most from The Host, and just really enjoy the film. So it's a fun time streaming or watching on DVD there. So I recommend The Host. And then yours was titled again what?
Okay, it's the artist's name, which I'm actually going to spell it because otherwise,
that'd be a good idea there.
My pronunciation of Chinese is probably lacking. It's I, which is A-I, that's his first name, and then Wei Wei, which is W-E-I, W-E-I, and that's all it is. So it's I Wei Wei, and then Never Sorry.
Never Sorry is kind of the subtitle thing. Yeah, got it.
I Wei Wei, Never Sorry.
All right, so you've got that, and you've got The Host. Mine's a little easier to remember and spell. A couple films, depending on what kind of mood you're in. Activist documentary or Asian horror monster movie. You got your choices there to check out. So we do encourage you to do that. We're going to wrap up the show, Chris. I mean, we've not only reviewed French film The Intouchables, we reviewed Life of Pi, talked about potential dark horse Oscar nominees coming up on the actor and actress field. We talked about Pedro Almodovar. We gave recommendations on a couple Asian films. Man, we're very international with today's show,
and we are,
which is really cool. Just about every film we talked about or had foreign connections there, so that's neat. We do have some spotlights coming out before too long where we'll talk about a few other films, kind of your little appetizer in between the big monthly show that we do here that you've just listened to. Little spotlights. If you subscribe to our feed, you'll get those spotlight episodes as well. Normally 15 minutes or so of us talking about one specific film, new film that's out in the movie theaters. So you keep on the lookout for those. We'll try to pepper those in every time we have one available. Of course, we'll have our big next monthly show next month. We don't know the films we'll be reviewing yet at that point. We haven't quite got confirmation on any of those, but it will more than likely be our Footcandle film of the month, showing at our Footcandle Film Society screening, and possibly another mainstream film to kind of go along with that. So give you a couple reviews to listen to for next month as well. Again, our show is on themesh.tv. That's where you can go back and listen to this episode or any other episode of our show. Or while you're there, check out all the other programs on The Mesh. We've got everything from a local music show. We've got some business podcasts. We've got discussion shows. We've got Chick Chat, which I still don't know quite how to categorize that one. We've got new stuff talking about technology. A lot of great shows to listen to fit any of your interests and styles. I guarantee you themesh.tv has probably got something to fit that. And then, of course, we encourage you to please reach out to us. info@themesh.tv is an email that'll get to us. Just mention in the email that you're talking about Footcandle Films, and we will certainly make sure it gets directed to us. Footcandle.org is our website for our film society to find out what our next screenings are going to be here in the Catawba County, North Carolina area, and also to jump on and hear some of our past shows or other reviews we've posted. And I think that's all I've got to mention there. Thanks again to Main Cellar City Club, as always, for sponsoring the show this month. We really appreciate the support. MainCellarCityClub.com. And with that, we're going to close out our last main episode of 2012. If you're hearing this before the holidays or in the midst of holidays, hope you're having a great holiday season. Hopefully you're getting to see a couple movies while you're at it too. If you do, drop us a line. Let us know what you see. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, I'm Alan.
I'm Chris. I'm off to see Lincoln.
Oh, you're going to go right now?
Yes.
Go do it. You've heard us talk about it enough, Chris. I want to hear your take on that.
Okay.
All right. Happy holidays, everyone. We'll see you in 2013. Take care.
Watch films in the company of like-minded people in the dark. Watch films in the underground. We won't let anyone know where you are. The films that don't make it to Carmike at the mall, or ones that were famous when Grandpa would watch films out of the reverence of the heritage of an art. Watch films through the courtesy of Footcandle Film Society.
Special thanks to Carpal Tuller for the show theme music. For more about Carpal Tuller, visit www.carpaltuller.com. You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.